Some quick disclaimers: the audio that I recorded for this video is before the 5.1 Abyss, and in the runs I didn't go for the best clear, I went for the first clear. So keep those in mind and let's get into the video. Hi, hello, greetings. I wanted to first and foremost have my voice over the video for a change, for the first time. Hello. And I also wanted to give some sort of an insight on the team, how it works, and everything related to it about making it work in case one of you, for whatever reason, is interested in trying the same team here. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. You can't really make this team work. Best bet you have is to make your second team carry most of the weight, which is what I'm doing here. As you can see, I'm running Nuvolette. I'm running the best team. One of the strongest and most comfortable teams in the game, if you're taking different factors into consideration. But it was simply because I didn't have it in me to do 55 retries for this video specifically. I do plan on retrying with some less meta teams, but let's get into the Xiao team specifically, or the bird team. This team looks like it should work, first and foremost. Xiao and Xianyun have great synergy, and you can't really go wrong with Fischl. She's usually one of the best options you have for sub DPS if you don't really know who to put in a certain slot. She fits all team archetypes really well, unless she's messing up with your reactions and whatnot. In other fronts, you can't really go wrong with her. She's really safe. There is not much to be said about her. The glaring issue with this team is Kujo-Sara. I would go as far as saying that this is a 3-member team. Kujo-Sara doesn't contribute enough to be considered as a separate unit. She's just very clunky to use. The setups with her, you know, setting up the swirl and the swirl up time, everything is just not worth it. So my best advice for you if you want to make this team specifically work is to just have a stronger team on the other side. Now, I do plan on experimenting, seeing if I can fit another bird into the team, because there's a plethora. Actually, that's a lie. There's not many characters with bird motifs in their kit that could contribute to this team. So I have to go and do some theory crafting and experimenting, see which one counts as a bird, because we have characters that do have bird constellations, but they don't really count. Any recommendations on that regard would be greatly appreciated, obviously. As for the team itself and how I prefer to play it, I haven't experimented with it long enough to find the most optimal rotation, but what I tend to do is I start with Kujo-Sara's skill, switch to Xianyun to swirl Electro for Fischl and whatnot, but the problem is the uptime with Vivi, and sometimes it's simply not worth it. But that's what I've grown used to doing, so it's simply easier for me to do as many retries as possible with what I've gotten used to instead of retraining my muscle memory. So that's what the rotation generally looks like to me. I tend to start with Sara's skill and switch to Xianyun, and then from there, based on if she needs energy or if Xiao needs energy, or if I want to waste my ult on, I don't know, some beginning wave of enemies that doesn't really need that much damage, I decide based on that if I want to ult, skill, or just charge attack, and swirl the Electro. That's what you need to get out of Xianyun. After that, I go back to Sara, ultimate, switch to Fischl, and depending on if she has energy or skill, again similar to Xianyun, I either skill or burst, and then I switch to Xiao and go on with the rest of the rotation. This is for the first rotation, by the way. For the rest of the rotations, which I regretfully promise you are going to be many, it really depends on how much energy you've built on both your Xianyun and your Kujo-Sara. Ideally, you want to have enough energy to have all their bursts on cooldown, but as you can see in the footage, I personally don't have those kind of builds. It also can be affected by the types of enemies, the number of enemies, and how you carry your rotations based on, again, the type of content that you're trying to tackle. Sometimes it's not worth to waste an ultimate in a certain rotation. Generally speaking, these decisions are very spontaneous and you have to make them in the combat. However, using this as a segue into the build requirements for the team, as I'm talking about the energy requirements, I think the energy problems are more significant to pay attention to, because the damage ceiling for the team itself is not high enough for you to try and see if you can get as much damage out of it as possible. So I think it's worth to have more smooth rotations and a generally more pleasant experience than to try to min-max your damage and whatnot. So I actually advise that in building other teams as well, so I could be biased. Either way, most of the damage on your team is going to be done by Fischl and Xiao himself is relatively energy hungry, and for Sora and Xianyun, you're not going to lose out on much if you lean a bit more into the energy that they require compared to other stats they might need, like attack percent for Xianyun and base attack for Sora. As a standard crit team, it also naturally scales well with vertical investment. As you can see, I have C1 and a limited weapon on Xiao, and I also have C1 Xianyun. I have C6 Sarah, which isn't really that... Did I just call her Sarah? I have C6 on both Sora and Fischl, which shouldn't be that big of a deal given that both of them are relatively old. However, the team that I'm running is still vertically invested, as much as I would love for it not to be. I wanted to try and not use the first constellations on Xianyun and Xiao. I ended up using both because of the same reason that I used the Nivelle team for the first half. I didn't have it in me to do 60 retries. For what it's worth, I did consider Hyperbloom Xiao, courtesy of the Jeff77 Xiao Salad. It's a salad team with Xiao as the enabler. And for a second, I got my hopes up and thought that maybe I could make it work because Fischl also fits into the team very perfectly. But unfortunately, we don't have any Hydro Birds currently. If we get one in the future, I'm 100% going to try that team. It sounds so fun and functional, which is the recipe for the perfect meme team. I don't have much else to add, so let's get into the conclusion of the video. This team is, at the end of the day, a gimmick team. It's a meme team. It's not supposed to be functional. It's supposed to be funny. And it's funny, in my humble opinion. It's fun, at least. It's an interesting premise. And compared to other meme teams that I've thought about or I've tried, this seems to be one of the most promising and one of the most functional that I've tried. So I'm going to give it credit on that front. Besides that, I don't have much else to add, besides the fact that you can actually switch Sora for Mika and try Physical Plunge on Xiao and make it even funnier. I have no idea how that might play out, but you can try it. And lastly, I wanted to add in terms of skill, I'm not exactly the worst player and I'm not the best, so I would put myself in the middle, both theory crafting wise and gameplay skill wise. So it is very possible and probable for someone that has 1, more game knowledge than me, and 2, more skill than me to try the same team and have much better results. I don't have much else to add, and the builds are included at the end of the runs. That would be all. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you would do the holy trinity of YouTube, liking, subscribing, and checking out other videos and whatnot. I hope you enjoyed your stay. I hope you have a splendid day, and thank you for watching.